Hi everybody! Alright, your cell quiz is coming up fast and soon, so it's time to begin reviewing. Let's start with this cell right here. Hopefully the audio is working okay. I've been working on the audio some, so hopefully I'm not really loud. Or too quiet. Anyway, let's just begin. Cells! Your whole quiz is about cells. Cells are the smallest parts of life. Smallest unit of life. All living things are made out of cells. Some things are just one cell big, and many things, like plants and animals, are made up of many cells. Now, before we start talking about cells, there's two important words that we need to keep in mind, and that is structure, and that is function. Now, structure is how something is made, how it's put together. For example, this table is flat, has a flat surface, and these legs to make it nice and stable. That's its structure, how it looks, how it's made, how it's built. Function is the job something has. So that's all about what something is used for. For example, this table is used for writing or for eating or really just for holding things up. Now the structure of the table helps it do its job. The structure of the table is flat and steady, which lets you put things on top of it. Let it hold things. Alright, the next thing here to cover is just a little bit more about structure and function. Just keep in mind, in nature, structure and function are often related. And I'll keep coming back to this later in the review video. Just something to keep in mind. Alright, now we get into the real fun stuff. Everyone's favorite, cell organelles. So, speaking of organelles, let's talk about what they are. So a normal plant and animal cell have organelles. The organelles are the tiny structures that inside the cell that help make it work correctly. So all of these things inside the cell here, all of these things, they're all organelles. We have a nucleus here, we've got the Golgi body there, we've got the mitochondria there, we've got the cytoplasm in yellow here, and these small little red things are some ribosomes. Got a lot of things there. Let's talk about them. So we're going to start with the thing on the outside, the cell membrane. The thing that shouts, "You shall not pass," unless I say so. That's the cell membrane. It is an organelle that is on the outside of the cell. This outside part here is the cell membrane. It's made up of lipids or fats. Two layers of fats. Here is one layer. Here is the other layer. So one layer, two layer. Two layers of fats. And in these layers of lipids or fats, we have some proteins. And we have some carbohydrates. Now, cell membrane controls what moves into the cell, and it controls what moves out of the cell. It decides who comes in and who goes out. Alright, then we've got the big guy coming up next. We have the nucleus. Now, the nucleus holds all your DNA. All this DNA is held by the nucleus. It allows it to control what's happening inside the cell because the DNA holds all the information about the cell and about you. All this is being held inside the nucleus. Alright, after the nucleus, we have cytoplasm. Alright, cytoplasm is this space inside the organelle that's not an organelle. It's all the space between the organelles. All this space, all that space, all this space, all that space. All this light blue part. That is the cytoplasm. It helps protect other organelles. It is where all the chemical reactions happen. And like this picture shows, even when the cell moves, the cytoplasm keeps all the organelles safe from bouncing around and hitting each other. Mitochondria, the powerhouse. The mitochondria creates energy, turns food into energy, sugar into energy. So This is a property of life. When we turn food into energy, we are doing respiration. So respiration happens inside the mitochondria. The organelle creates energy because it's doing respiration. Remember, respiration is when we turn food into energy. That's our respiration. Next organelle is the ribosomes. They're the builders. They make protein. They make all the protein the cell needs and a lot of the protein that the body needs. And they get the instructions for how to build the proteins from one place. They get the instructions from the nucleus. They don't just know how to make a protein. They know how to make one, but they don't know what kind of protein to make. There's so many kinds. So the DNA sends this messenger here, this little messenger RNA, sends a messenger to the ribosome. The ribosome reads it, and then the ribosome makes protein that the instructions tell it to make. Alright, so that's our ribosomes. They make proteins. After ribosomes, we have lysosomes. They recycle parts of the cell. They remove old and broken organelles. Take them away. Recycle those parts of the cell that the cell doesn't need anymore. If something's broken, if a ribosome is not working correctly, making bad protein, a lysosome will come along and get rid of it. So a lysosome, like this picture shows, he sees a bad organelle and then it absorbs it slowly. Alright, so we're getting to the end of our cell organelles here. Next we have the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus helps move things around the cell. Start here, moves it here. That's what it does. It moves proteins made by the ribosome. So when the ribosomes make something, the Golgi apparatus, or the Golgi body, moves it. Kind of like this picture shows. Here are some proteins that were made, and then the Golgi apparatus packs them up and then takes them where they need to go. Kind of like FedEx, UPS, or Amazon. Next one, cell wall. This is special because this is a plant organelle. Animal cells don't have this. Only plant cells have this. If you look closely, the plant cell has a cell membrane and a cell wall. It has both. That's special. Not every cell has that. Only plant cells have the cell wall and the cell membrane. The cell wall makes the cell stronger and it protects the cell. Another thing plants have is the chloroplast. It's found mostly in plant cells, and they absorb light energy. The rays from the sun get absorbed by the chloroplast. They turn that sun energy into sugar, glucose specifically. And that glucose is later on used for energy in the mitochondria. But before we get to the mitochondria, chloroplasts make sugar using sunlight. This is called photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is when we turn sunlight into food, sunlight into sugar, sunlight into glucose. That's photosynthesis. Alright, we are done talking about organelles, so a few more things that we need to know for the quiz. First, we had a small lab about this. Diffusion. Diffusion is when we have movement in and out of the cell. It's when we move from a high concentration, somewhere where we have lots of something, when we move from high concentration to a low concentration, somewhere where we don't have a lot of something. So here we have a lot of water molecules. We have a high concentration because there's a lot. Here we have a low concentration of water molecules. We don't have a lot of water molecules. So the diffusion here happens when we have water molecules move to the other side. In this GIF, you can see all the water molecules start on one side and then they move. I'll try and time it. And here it begins, and then the water molecules move. One more time. Here the water molecules, and then they move. This GIF kind of shows diffusion nicely with water cells. Alright, besides diffusion, we've got some specialized cells we need to talk about. Specialized cells are those cells where structure truly creates function. These kind of cells, the way they're built, really decides what they do. It decides their function. And we're only going to talk about 3 here because I'm only going to ask you about 3 on the quiz. There's a lot I could ask you about. Oh, a lot of other cells I could ask you about, but I won't. I'm only going to ask you about these 3. First one first. Red blood cells. Red blood cells, they're round. The round edges allows them to travel easily through vessels. That's a structure relating function. The structure being they're round, the function being they're swimming through cells. Another thing that these red blood cells have is they don't really have a nucleus. That allows them to carry more oxygen around the body. Since they're carrying more oxygen, it's good for the body. And this is another example of structure helping function. The structure is there's no nucleus. The function is carrying oxygen. They relate because without a nucleus there's more room to carry oxygen. All right, next we have the nerve cell. Nerve cells have long and skinny arms that allow them to send messages very quickly throughout the body. The long and skinny arms help send the signal faster from your brain to wherever it needs to go. And finally, we've got a root cell. They have long and finger-like processes. They use them to absorb water and minerals from the soil. They don't only use them to absorb, though. The reason why they have these long finger-like processes is to have a larger surface area. This larger surface area allows them to absorb more water. So they have this finger-like process to be able to suck in more minerals and more water because it allows them to have a bigger surface area. All right, y'all. That's it. I hope that was helpful. Good luck on the quiz. Good luck studying. And I'll see you in class.